Well, good morning and good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate everyone dialing in today. My name is Rhett Buttle. I'm the founder and principal of Public-Private Strategies. We're an organization that works at the intersection of the public sector and the private sector to bring solutions to some of our society's most pressing problems. Today, we are super thrilled to partner with AARP on this webinar. Before we hop in and I introduce our speaker, I just wanted to go over some of the housekeeping items. First is we really are encouraging everyone today to use their computer audio. We're going to be showing one or two video clips as part of today's presentation. And in order to hear the audio, you'll need to make sure to use your computer audio. So some of you may have dialed in by phone and you'll be able to hear the vast majority of our presentation. But in order to hear the video function, you need to switch to your computer audio. You can do this if you look to the right side of your screen, you'll have a choice for audio. Just choose computer audio. So again, we're encouraging everyone to use computer audio. If you're not able to do so, there'll just be 1 or 2 minutes you won't be able to hear today, but for those of you who can, please do so. With that, just wanted to set the stage. Today's topic is tremendously important. As an organization that works with small business owners and business leaders all across the country, we often hear about the challenges of remaining competitive in today's workforce and the opportunity to offer benefits, but also how they feel so deeply about their employees being like their family. And when those conversations come up, obviously retirement security is at the heart of it. And those are some of the things that we wanted to talk about today and try to really give a snapshot a little bit for small business owners about what exactly is going on in Maine and tell you about some new opportunities that are coming on the horizon. So with that, we are really fortunate to be joined by Lori Parham, who is the state director of AARP Maine, who's really been championing this issue. As many of you know who've worked with AARP in the past, they're a leader on multiple issues, whether it be healthcare, support systems for entrepreneurship, but have really leaned into the issue of retirement security for business owners and their employees. And so that's what we hope to discuss today. The last thing I want to mention before I turn the line over to Lori is that we will be taking some questions. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to do that through the chat box. And so if you look down in your right corner, you'll see a little bit of a chat question. Feel free to go ahead and throw those questions into the chat, and I'll be able to offer up some of those at the end, and we'll be able to get your feedback. So just quickly, after introductions, we're going to hear a little bit about the Maine Retirement Savings Program. We'll also be able to share some examples of what's going on nationally. We'll hear stories of success about what's going on in Maine. I'm going to talk a little bit about what exactly this means for your small business. And then, of course, we want to take your Q&A. So as a reminder, please, if you can, make sure to use computer audio. And with that, it is my pleasure to turn this presentation over to Lori Parham, who's the state director with AARP Maine. Lori, over to you.
Thanks, Rhett, and good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be on this webinar with you all today, talking about the important issue of retirement security. And today, we're going to talk about the issues, what's happening across the country, but also, because this is Maine focused, really hone in on what's happening here in our state. So a secure retirement is really out of reach for hundreds of thousands of Maine residents, especially for those who work for themselves or for small businesses. And so I'm here today to talk to you about what AARP is doing to make saving easier for all workers. We know that saving for retirement is hugely important for the future, and we have real concerns that Maine is behind. And next slide. So here's a fun fact for you all. Nearly 1 in 3 people approaching retirement age think they're more likely to learn Bigfoot is real than to save enough to retire comfortably. I'm not really kidding. This is according to a recent survey from AARP and the Ad Council. And adults with lower incomes are more likely to feel this way. 31% of those with incomes from $40,000 to $74,000 compared to 25% of those with incomes from $75,000 to $100,000. So adults are really feeling that they may never be able to retire. So today we're talking about making a secure future something people can believe in again by helping all workers to grow the savings they need to take control of their future. Next slide. So let's talk about what it means to have a financially secure retirement. On the screen, you see three options: leisure and travel, maintaining your style of living, not having to work full time. Which of these options do you think equals a financially secure retirement? Well, instead of dreaming about the golf course or beach, most Americans now consider a secure retirement simply surviving and paying the bills. Others think a comfortable retirement involves maintaining their pre-retirement lifestyle and being able to pay for healthcare and other insurance costs. Only a small amount of Americans are primarily preparing for a life of leisure. Next slide. So whatever you envision for retirement, what do you think is needed to be financially secure in our later years? No matter how you define it, a financially secure future is more like a puzzle. And it's not complete without some combination of all of these things we've just spoken about: savings, healthcare, pensions, Social Security, and the opportunity to work if you need to or you want to. So a lot of us know about Social Security. We hear a lot about it in the news these days. And it is a very important piece of the puzzle. So let's start by taking a quick look at Social Security. Next slide. Okay. Social Security is a vital source of income for older Americans. It keeps almost 15 million seniors out of poverty. In Maine, it keeps over 260,000 seniors out of poverty. Today, nearly half of all older Maine families rely on Social Security for more than 50% of their income. And for nearly 1 in 5 Maine seniors, it provides virtually all of their family income, 90% or more. So this program is hugely important to Maine people. Next slide. But while Social Security is a critical piece of the puzzle, it's not enough to depend on. It was never actually meant to fully provide for retirement. It was created to ensure that seniors would have a steady and guaranteed source of income when they retired. Social Security was always meant to be there through good times and bad times. The average benefits for a 65-plus Maine family is under $18,000 per year, while older American families on average spend $19,000 a year alone on food, utilities, and healthcare. And here in Maine, we see many older people struggle, especially in Maine winters, with heating costs, and that just adds to the burden. Knowing this and the fact that traditional pensions are continuing to decline, savings, individual savings, becomes an even bigger piece of the puzzle for retirement. And that is where the real problem becomes apparent. Next slide. So just how big is the problem? The data shows that America faces a very big and very real retirement savings crisis. In fact, the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College actually has the retirement income deficit at more than $6 trillion. And the National Institute for Retirement Security estimates that America faces a $14 trillion problem. Next slide. Over 100 million working age Americans do not own any retirement account assets, meaning no employer-sponsored 401k, no individual IRA, and no pension through their employer. So for those who don't have retirement savings, the picture is not rosy either. For those who do have retirement savings, the picture is not rosy either. Nearly 7 in 10 Americans who are approaching retirement age have less than a year's income saved for retirement, which is way below what they'll need to have a secure retirement. And a recent study found that many Americans would have a very hard time accessing $400 even if they had a crisis. So we know that Americans are in real trouble. So for these Americans, the golden years of retirement may not even be bronze. Sadly, half of all households are at risk of not being able to afford everyday expenses like food and housing costs in retirement. And then consider this, less than half of millennials aged 23 to 38 have a retirement savings account, and only 1/3 are actively contributing to account. And half of Gen Xers, and I'm in that category, have a retirement savings account, and only 36% are actively contributing to an account. So this is a cross-generational issue. So what about Maine? Nearly 46% of Maine workers aged 18 to 64 do not have access to a workplace retirement savings plan. And small business employees are even less likely to have a plan, with 67% not having a pension or a retirement plan through their employer. In raw numbers, around 146,000 small business employees in Maine don't have access, compared to 89,000 in businesses with 100 or more employees. Next slide. We also know that women face an especially uphill battle when it comes to their future financial security. Millions of women work all their lives with few or no opportunities to participate in retirement savings plans through their jobs. This is a point I want to stress. On average, women live longer than men, so their retirement assets need to stretch further into the future. And on top of that, their wages tend to be lower, making it more challenging to save, and their future Social Security benefits even smaller. What's more, many take time out of the workforce to provide care for children, older parents, and other loved ones. These factors all compound into one scary and ultimate truth. Women are 80% more likely to face poverty during their later years than are men. Next slide. So if this worries you, you're not alone. Americans feel strongly that the nation is facing a retirement crisis, and 82% of registered voters in Maine are concerned that Maine residents have not saved enough for retirement and could end up relying on public assistance programs. And quite frankly, the retirement deficit is not likely to shrink in the near term and will very likely grow. But it really doesn't have to be that way. We can easily address the retirement crisis by helping Mainers grow the savings they need to take control of their futures and live independently as they age. And now I'm going to turn it over to Rhett.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lori. I think what we wanted to do is, now that we have some perspective, we wanted to give you all the pleasure of hearing from Jean Chatzky. As a reminder, for folks, we need folks to turn on their computer audio. You'll only hear this segment if you have access to computer audio. If you're not able to get access, it'll just be a few minutes and we'll be back with a live presentation. Jean Chatzky, as many of you know, is the financial editor of NBC Today Show, and she's been working with AARP as their personal finance ambassador for a number of years, and she's traveled extensively across the country talking about Work and Save and why it's an important step forward for small businesses and their employees. So with that, let's ask the moderator to go ahead and transition over, and we can hear from Jean Chatzky.
Money rule number 11, if you can't see it and you can't touch it, you won't spend it, explains the magic of 401ks. Unfortunately, 55 million Americans don't have retirement plans at work, but they could if more states would pass Work and Save programs. These programs help employees save money automatically out of their regular paychecks, while simultaneously providing small businesses with low-cost plug-and-play retirement options. They're just the sort of innovative solutions we need to help Americans build a more secure future.
Wonderful. And with that, we're going to go back to Lori to hear a little bit about what is going on across the nation. Lori.
Great, Rhett. Yes, so this is an issue that we have been working on across the country, and we're really starting to see a nationwide movement. And it's states that are leading the way, like they do on so many issues, in addressing the retirement crisis. Since 2012, all but a few states have acted to implement, study, or consider legislation to create what we call Work and Save programs. There are now 10 states and the city of Seattle that have enacted various program models. Next slide. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about Oregon. In 2017, Oregon was the first in the nation to launch this innovative solution that helps employees save for retirement through payroll deductions without any ongoing fees or risks for their employer. Since the launch, over 62,000 Oregonians have enrolled in OregonSaves, that's what they've called it, and they contribute about $100 a month. As of November, the assets in the program have grown to over $40 million. And in July of last year, the program became fully self-supporting. It's no longer dependent on the state's general fund, and it's no longer spending any loaned funds. And so we're starting to see a real success, and to see the number of people who have enrolled and who are now putting money away is just really exciting. And we happen to get the chance to hear from one of those businesses in Oregon. We're going to hear today from Kim Stegman, who's the Executive Director of the Rose City Rollers. She's with us on video today.
Women's Roller Derby League, a nonprofit organization based in Portland, Oregon. Our goals are to play strong, train smart, and have fun. Be welcoming and embrace others. Respect the game and each other. Bring your best self and trust others to do the same. And keep making the community better. And that's why the Rose City Rollers is joining OregonSaves, the new workplace retirement program that helps our staff save through work. I'm Kim Stegman, Executive Director of the Rose City Rollers, the top women's roller derby team in the world for 2 years in a row. We know how to help our skaters win on the track, but we need to create an environment for our staff to win off the track. It has always bothered me that women face a harder time in retirement than men. Older women on average have 26% less income than men, and overall, women are 80% more likely to be impoverished in retirement than men. Women's poverty rate increases with age and change in marital status. A lot of us are doing okay while there are two incomes, but that can be a problem when a spouse or partner dies or there's a divorce or other change in status. And the reality is that about 50% of women over 45 are single. So when I heard about OregonSaves, I called to sign up for the pilot program right away. Saving for retirement's a long game, and the more of a head start I can give my staff, the better a chance they have at achieving financial security.
I'm excited about OregonSaves because saving for retirement can be really overwhelming. The state of Oregon is making it easy for us to make a choice, and even easier through payroll deduction.
Without OregonSaves, I'm not sure that I would be saving for retirement. I know that Social Security is not enough, and so this is an exciting opportunity that is easy and portable for me if I change jobs.
We can help employees save for retirement one paycheck deduction at a time and give them the sense of empowerment that comes from planning for their financial future. OregonSaves is a Roth IRA that travels with the employee whether they work at the Rose City Rollers or move on in their career. Our mission is to serve women and girls who want to play the team sport of roller derby, connect with an inclusive community, and realize their power both on skates and off. And one way to help achieve that goal for our staff is to empower them to save for retirement. OregonSaves gives us a competitive edge to realize our power, goals, and dreams. It's easy for me as an employer, and it's easy for my staff. It's a winning program for Oregon.
Wonderful. Well, that is my favorite video. It always makes me smile so much when I see it because I just love the women's roller derby organization. I think it gives great context to why an issue like this can be so important for small employers. What I wanted to do was, before handing it back to Lori, I just wanted to give a little bit of context about why this is so important for small employers. One of the reasons is because we know that for individuals and for employees, saving can be difficult, but when your employer offers a way to save, it actually changes the equation. And so research upon research really shows that employers are the key to helping individuals save for their retirement. One of the things we know that if you have access to a retirement program at work, you're actually times more likely to save. And we also know that if you're automatically enrolled, and so if employers make it easy for their employees to do so, if that deduction just comes right out of their check, they're actually 20 times more likely to save. So thinking about the issue at large, and as we think about sort of how to bring more retirement security to Mainers, it's really important to think about the workplace and the employer as a channel, and to think about how do you automate it and really make it easy for both the employer and the employee who have so many things going on in their life. Next slide, please. So with that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the challenges that small businesses are facing as it relates to retirement. You'll see here, one of the things we often hear from small employers is their challenge to really just be competitive. And quite frankly, it's tough for small businesses out there right now as they're trying to be competitive with larger businesses. Many small businesses have just not been in a place in the past where they're able to offer workplace retirement savings program. And that's why some of the solutions we're talking about today can really be ground changing. Just to ground you all a little bit in the facts, you'll see that businesses with fewer than 20 employees account for about 1 in 5 jobs in America. Small businesses are really the engine of job growth in our country. They're the engine of job growth in Maine. But unfortunately, with everything that they have going on and some of the complexity with retirement programs of the past, they have had challenging. They've been challenged to be able to do so, and that's why Work and Save is so exciting for them. AARP has actually done a lot of really impressive polling with business owners and has found that the probability that businesses with 5 employees offer a plan is really just 34%. And it really only rises up to 56% when we talk about businesses with 20 employees. So it gets better as businesses get larger. And when we were trying to really understand what exactly was going on with small businesses and why this was such a challenge for them, the Pew Charitable Trust, which some of you might be familiar with, which is a nonpartisan think tank, had done some really good work diving into small and medium-sized businesses and showed that some of the challenges for small employers were that they were worried about cost, what is the cost to run a plan, and that their bandwidth, they just had limited resources to be able to administer a plan, and some worry about taking on the fiduciary responsibility of what that means. And so programs like OregonSaves, or potentially what you all are discussing in Maine, have really begun to strike at the heart of that. Next slide, please. Why is this such an important solution for small businesses? As I've talked about throughout the presentation, I think as you've heard from Lori, small businesses are really just trying to compete, and they are the soul of our economy. And so really, as we've been thinking about what are the solutions, and as folks have been talking about the idea behind Work and Save, really been thinking about what is a low-cost solution that doesn't cost an employer a lot of money, but it still allows them to be competitive in today's field. And we really believe that Work and Save addresses sort of 3 of the main things that you hear from small employers, and we heard some of this manifest in the research before. So first and most importantly, it really levels the playing field. It allows small business owners to be able to offer a suite of benefits to their employees, and that really unlocks the ability for them to recruit and retain top quality talent. Small employers often feel like they aren't able to get access to high quality employees. Part of the reason for that is because many of them haven't been able to offer benefits such as retirement in the past, and this really gives them the opportunity to be able to do so. And then lastly, it makes it more simple for them. And so simplifying those administrative operations can really be key with small employers and talking about it. Next slide, please. So with that, I want to turn the presentation back over to Lori, who's going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Maine. Lori?
Thanks, Rhett. So here in Maine, lawmakers are considering a Work and Save program, and we're working closely with them on it. And this would be a way to help Mainers grow the savings they need to really start to take control of their retirement futures. It's called the Maine Retirement Savings Program, and employees' contributions are made with an automatic deduction from their paychecks. This program is modeled off of Oregon, and so you heard some of this in the video we saw. The accounts are voluntary for employees, and it's up to each worker to decide if they want to participate and how much they want to put away each month. And it's their own money. Employees can take, the accounts are portable. They can take them with them as they move from job to job, and it will be there in their later years. And we know these days, unlike 30 years ago, where you might stay with one company or one business your whole career, we really see a lot of movement these days. And so these would be portable from job to job. The program will also provide education to help those new to saving learn how to plan for a secure and independent retirement. Sometimes thinking about retirement can just be way too overwhelming for folks. Next slide. And it's also important to note that the state will benefit as well. Giving employees a simple way to save for retirement means fewer Mainers will need to rely on public assistance later in life, and this saves taxpayer dollars. We worked with the University of Maine on a study to look at the issue, and we found that Maine taxpayers could save as much as $23 million in the next 10 years by helping people save for their own retirement. If folks have access to their own secure retirement, then they won't be relying on public programs. So a little bit more about the program. It's a public-private partnership. A state board will contract out with a private financial vendor or multiple vendors, depending on what's decided, to provide access to an individual IRA for employees. The state would need to provide a startup loan, which the program would pay back, and then the program would be completely self-sustaining. Next slide. AARP, as I mentioned earlier, did a survey of Maine registered voters, and we found overwhelmingly support for the Maine Retirement Savings Program. 2 in 3 voters supported the proposed public-private managed state retirement program, and 86% agreed that state lawmakers should support legislation like this to make it easier for small businesses to offer their employees a way to save for retirement. Next slide. The survey also revealed another critical point. If we build it, employees in Maine will use it. For the surveyed workers without access to a workplace savings plan currently, 4 out of 5 said they would take advantage of a savings program at work if their employer offered it to them. Next slide. So what we've been doing is reaching out to businesses across the state and talking with business owners about the program. And it's been really great to hear from folks about how many of these small businesses would like to be able to offer something for their employees and to have something for themselves, but it's just been tough. And so as we're reaching out to businesses and finding support for this proposal, we're telling their stories. We told the stories of a business owner in Portland in Augusta yesterday, and we're starting to really make sure that folks are hearing about this option and what will be available. And so there'll be time today to hear more about the program. We wanted to keep the presentation to a manageable length so we could get your questions. But if this is something that's interesting to you, we'd love to get your story. We'd love for you to join us by signing our petition for lawmakers, and we'd love for you to consider talking to your legislator about the importance of a program like this if you think it will work for you and for your employees. Next slide.
Awesome. Well, with that, we hope we've given you a lot of really good information about what's going on across the country. We hope we've set the stage. And I think what we wanted to do now is really engage and hear from the folks who've joined us in the conversation. There's a little chat box down in the corner for those of you who have questions now that you've heard a little bit about it. We've already had some questions come in. I'm going to take those questions and hopefully dive a little deeper with Lori. We'll take about 3 to 5 questions and then we will allow folks to go about their day and hope that you stay engaged. So Lori, one of the first questions that came in, which is something that I often hear is, can you just talk a little bit about Social Security, and isn't the idea that Social Security will be enough and shouldn't that cover small employers and workers when they think about retiring?
Sure, that's a great question. And I talked a little bit about this earlier, but when Social Security was implemented, it was really meant to address the fact that that older Americans were really living in serious poverty. And the program has done a lot to raise people out of poverty. However, the amount that the average individual gets in Social Security benefits just isn't enough. You hear about the Social Security cost of living adjustment. That little amount is not keeping up with Medicare premiums, with overall healthcare costs, with fuel costs and food costs. And so at AARP, we talk about Social Security as part of a three-legged stool. The challenge is, so where else do you go? Unfortunately, one challenge is that pensions that were often offered through employers are really on the decline. Fewer and fewer companies are offering pensions, and individuals who have had access to a pension have seen companies default or limit their benefits. And so this is why individual retirement savings, putting that money away each month, becomes an even more critical part of the retirement security puzzle. Just to give a number that I find quite terrifying, the estimates for what an individual needs to put away just to cover additional healthcare costs in retirement is around $250,000 a person. So you can see how that Social Security check just isn't going to be enough.
That's great. Thanks, Lori. The next question I have is a little bit more about outreach and engagement. Someone is writing that they're part of a business association and they're wondering how they might be able to get word out to their business association. And they're not directly saying this, but I think they're asking, are folks at AARP available to talk about this?
Absolutely. So at the end of the webinar today, my information would be available. And so I offered to the participant to send me an email. We'd be happy to come out and talk about the program. I know we can only cover so much in a webinar, but we wanted to start the discussion and really talk it through and answer those questions. So absolutely, we're willing to do that. If folks go to the aarp.org/ME for Maine site. We've got an article up there about the program, but we'd love to be able to come out and talk about this program with business organizations.
Awesome. We have a question in from Louise Thuberg. And sorry, Louise, if I pronounced your name wrong, but asking about, have you seen similar results of savings in other states like Oregon? So speaking to, what has been the result of OregonSaves?
Yes, so things are looking good in Oregon. It's pretty exciting to see that the fund, in terms of overall savings from everyone who has joined the program, and the number of folks who've voluntarily stayed in the program is around 72%. So the take-up rate in Oregon is quite strong. And what our data from our polling has showed us in Maine is that workers here also would take advantage of the program. But the fund, they've now got around $40 million in assets, and those numbers, we get updates on a regular basis, just continue to grow. And it's wonderful news that the program is now self-sustaining, and these programs were always meant to be that way. This was this idea was to provide an option to employers who just can't take it on all on their own, and to build something that is a private account that is portable, but provides this option in a market that is just really lacking, and where we really haven't seen change in terms of individual savings in this space in close to 40 years.
Awesome. Two more questions. So if anyone else has any, feel free to go into the questions box. One is, Lori, someone's asking, what does the process look like from here in terms of, where are things with the legislator, and what is the legislature, and what does the road look like ahead?
Sure. So yesterday, the bill sponsor, Senator Eloise Vitelli from Aroostook, presented to the Health Coverage, Insurance and Financial Services Committee on the bill. It was a work session, and so it was an opportunity for the members of the committee to ask questions of the bill sponsor. We were fortunate enough to have a colleague of ours, Sarah Gill, with us. Sarah works in our national office, but she also sits on the boards of these programs in Maryland and Pennsylvania, so she has real experience about what's happening across the country. And then we also were able to provide public comment. The public was. The bill will go through at least one more work session, maybe two. And so there is still real opportunity for small businesses to learn more about the program, and if they would like to get involved in making this type of program a reality here in Maine, we'd love to work with them.
Awesome. And the last question, and it cracks me up because this is like so small business owner oriented, is what's the catch? Is there any catch? And so I thought that was funny. So I mean, just Lori, any closing thoughts from you about why this is important for small business owners and what they need to be aware of?
I think it's a great question. And I'm thinking about the couple who own the small business in Portland who were profiled yesterday. And I actually, it's one of my favorite coffee shops in town. And so I get the chance, I've met the staff, I spend a lot of time there, and I can see how hard they work and what a part of the community they've become and how this issue is important to them. But I also realize that they've got a lot on their plates. And that's what is we see is so wonderful about this program is it's meant to make things very simple for small businesses. It's a plug and play option. You enroll the individual into the program when they become an employee, or if for your employees that are already with you, there's a process to enroll them. And then, and it's set up just like you would with FICA and the other components that come out of a paycheck with the pay period. And so that's really it. You provide a packet of information to the individual. There's no liability on the employer. This is an individual, it's an IRA, it's an individual account. The individual has responsibility for it. They have the choices of the kinds of funds they're in. They can take it with them when they move. It's just getting those folks, those employees enrolled as part of that onboarding process, or for individuals who are already there, if this were to go forward, getting them into the program.
Awesome. That is super helpful. So I want to let folks know that this recording will be available and that we're available for Q&A. We're going to make sure that our contact information is up here. This is really just the beginning of a conversation. We want to answer your questions. For those of you who belong to business associations or chambers of commerce who would like more engagement around this, I think that is something that we're happy to facilitate. Before we end today's webinar, Lori, I just wanted to give you one more chance to add any sort of closing thoughts or anything about ways to reach you, and then we will give everyone thanks for joining us today.
Well, I just want to thank everyone who joined today for joining us to learn more about the program. And, as I said, it can be tough to go through a lot of detail in a short period of time. And so I would just encourage folks, if you would like to hear more, to please reach out to me directly. You can see my contact information on the screen, and we'd love to have a conversation with you. The bottom line is inaction is just not an option. If you look at what the costs to Maine are going to be if folks don't begin to save, we're going to be in real trouble. And so we view this as a wonderful opportunity, a public-private partnership, something that small businesses can offer to their, will be offering to their employees, that it will make them more competitive in Maine. We know we've got a tight workforce. And so, we hope you'll be interested in this, and we'd love to talk with you more about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. And I just want to add that I know as business owners and business leaders, you all are so busy, but I can't state enough how important your voice is to issues like this in the process, and finding ways to engage, even in little ways, about sharing information or working with AARP team to raise your voice is going to be really critical to figuring out the piece of this puzzle. So really encourage you all to connect with Lori or connect with us. We will make sure everyone today who joined the webinar and folks who couldn't join get a copy of the presentation to share, and we'll be in contact. So with that, we thank you for your time. We know how busy you are. This is now the end of the webinar.